Indrani Thuraisingham, please.
Thank you very much. A very good morning, and I represent Consumers International, which is a global umbrella body of consumer organizations, more than 200 consumer organizations in 100 countries. I would like to particularly focus on the one spectrum of malnutrition, that is the overnutrition, because that's where an area that consumer organizations and Consumers International, we have done work on. So if you look at today, processed food high in fat, sugar, and salt have become much more cheaper and widely available. And the current food market environments do not promote healthy choices. So definitely governments have a role, definitely an obligation as well, to shape and regulate food systems to make it possible for people to access healthy diets which are sustainably produced. And this could be done through multi-sectoral engagements. Does it have to be partnership? I think that's another debate that we have to look at, because we've seen, especially where governments are now increasingly relying on market-driven solutions. And to address public health nutrition, it is a challenge, because we have seen partnerships with especially global food and beverage and fast food restaurants. These have raised contentious issues because their commercial interests always do not align with the public health requirements. So therefore, successful engagements such as partnerships need to be designed to address, firstly, the conflict of interest, and to prevent public health nutrition goals from being co-opted or influenced by commercial interests. And definitely then partnerships will have to involve civil society organizations and health experts. Now, food businesses are part of the non-communicable disease, and also they are part of the solution as well. But they should be engaged only when implementing public health nutritional policies and not when developing or formulating policies. Because at the moment what you see is that, I used to represent my national consumer organization in Malaysia, and we used to have these global bodies, global businesses sitting in the same meeting when formulating policies. And definitely then issues like when you talk about labeling, when there's issues like traffic light labeling, this is something which is a no-no for these global companies which are producing food and beverages. So therefore, what you see is that if partnership is not governed well, it may impact public health agenda of healthy diets. There is no guarantee that partnerships will stop the food businesses, especially global food companies, from engaging in activities counter to public health, as their primary aim is increased sales and market expansion, of course. Furthermore, governments themselves may self-censor in regulating in order not to compromise the partnership. So moving forward, clear principles at the global level that should support nutrition, consumer health, and wellness should be incorporated, for example, in the UN Global Compact. Companies, especially these global companies, should be held accountable for products that they manufacture and market, and to stop double standards, which they currently practice now in countries where there are weak or no regulations. At the national level, governments must implement the 2010 set of recommendations on the marketing of food and non-alcoholic beverages to children through very effective regulations. We have seen in many Asian countries, governments are already imposing soda tax on sweetened beverage. We have to get the global companies, especially, to reformulate such unhealthy food to give better choices. We need to include civil society as the voice of the vulnerable people in policy formulation, as well as nutritional education, especially in talking about behavior change for consumers, and to adopt a much more systematic and transparent accountability process of managing conflict of interest, as well as monitoring and evaluation partnership outcomes. This is again another example I would like to share, especially in the tobacco area. In Malaysia, when our Ministry of Health worked with the tobacco companies, 3 years down the road, we saw a 5% increase of cigarettes when they worked in partnership. So again, the issue of trust, the issue of credibility has to be looked at when we talk about partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you.